Katie, I understand you have something to complain about. Not about the show, just about society, basically.
Yes, Jesse. It is about the time. We're a little early, but I feel like I can maybe extend this a little bit. This is about the time of year that I start complaining about fireworks.
Okay.
Do you have strong feelings about fireworks?
I want to hear yours first.
They're bad. They're horrific. They should not exist. They should be illegal. And you know who I really blame? There's like, where I live in Western Washington, not just the night of July 4th, but the entire week leading up to July 4th it's just like being in Tehran. No differences.
Identical.
Identical. The people are slightly less tan, but other than that, it's just bombs going off all night and all day, which riddled me that. Why would anybody be shooting off their fireworks during the day? I don't know, but they do it. So I'm complaining about it. This is like mostly what I do this time of year is just complain about fireworks and then write my elected officials and ask them to do something about it, which actually did work this year. So the county that we moved to, they have now, it will start next year. It's not in place this year, unfortunately, but next year will be the first moratorium on setting off fireworks, which is great because it's an extremely dry area. We've already had wildfires out here. The fact that people are setting off explosives during a drought in a really dry time of year in general, very dumb. And next year will be the last year. So they sent out this countywide survey and I filled it out 5 times. So I think we can all thank me for that.
Oh, so there is voter fraud. And you're undocumented, right?
I did it all.
And you had Moose, who is not a U.S. citizen.
I did it all from the same name, the same email address. They didn't say you could only fill it out once. I just wanted them to know how much I care about the issue.
Is this this is just a survey. It's not like a binding.
It's a survey. But
okay. So your town does surveys on do you want people shooting off fireworks?
And I said no 5 times.
I'm sure in a community of the sorts of people who move to the woods for peace and quiet, this was not like most of your neighbors are probably in the same boat as you. They don't want loud boom boom noises.
You would be surprised. So there's always a ton of debate about this on Facebook. The county is not racially, but is sort of politically diverse. Definitely the towns run blue, but the more rural areas, like it used to be logging country. So there's definitely some red there. And when you tell people, like the fire department will put something up about like, please be cautious about fireworks or don't set off fireworks this year. It's really dry. And there'll just be a flood of people, freedom, freedom, freedom. It's like, it is somehow impinging on their rights to be complete fucking dumbasses to ask them not to burn down a community.
So this gets to what this episode's about. You're saying you don't like working class people and their culture.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't like fireworks in their culture. And although I will say, like in my old neighborhood, it was not like the white working class that were the greatest offenders. It was the immigrants. Those people fucking love America. Love it. It's disgusting.
I just love not.
I try to lecture them.
I love the way you phrase that for maximum impact. If someone clipped it, I've got something to say about the working class. And to be clear, I don't mean the white working class. They're fine. It's the others.
The white working class. They were at home. They were in their basements playing fucking Slay the Spire.
Fortnite.
Playing
not
Fortnite.
Slay the Spire. The working class does not play Slay the Spire. That's a bougie game.
It was the immigrants who were really celebrating, and I would go try to educate them. I would say things like, do you know what we have done to your country? What was your country again? Do you know what we did to it? My Nepalese neighbors. Just to try to convince them not to celebrate, just like save it for New Year's. Don't be celebrating.
Oh, so you spread anti-American sentiment not because you believe it, because you don't want people to celebrate America because of the fireworks.
Yes. Look, if people want to celebrate America with sparklers, that's fine. It's the fireworks that are the issue. And it's not even like for a lot of people, it's about dogs and vets. No. It's just, for me, it's like, it's really mostly about wildfires. But I did get some good news yesterday. So Whidbey Island is across the water from where we live. And nice island. Great place. Love to visit. And some patriot there blew up his house.
Jesus.
He had an estimated 700 pounds of fireworks in his home. Blew it up. The home no longer exists. Unfortunately, several firefighters were injured in this blast. And he also destroyed his neighbor's home, which is too bad. But I do think I take a little bit of joy from the fact that that's 700 pounds fewer fireworks that will be set off in my area.
And you've never been a fan of firefighters, so them getting injured.
That is not true. I love firefighters, specifically the ones with the white ones with the black spots and the floppy ears.
I was a weird child, as I'm sure that comes as a surprise. I didn't like fire. I did not like the bright lights and big booms of the fireworks. I was like your dog. And now that I'm older,
Moose is actually much better about fireworks than I am. I'm the one who needs the thunder vest.
Wait, don't you actually go to Canada to get away from them?
We did last year, which was great. This year we are not, but last year we did, and then we got there on Canada Day. Turns out, guess how they celebrate Canada Day, Jesse?
Fireworks.
Yes, but the difference is that there was a burn ban, and people actually obey it. They don't consider burn bans to be some sort of assault on their rights to burn down their own community. So we didn't hear any fireworks. It was fantastic.
I've sort of fallen into the habit. I might have actually told this dumb story, but I've fallen into the habit of going. A friend has had a 4th of July party in DC the last few years. Plus, this year I want to celebrate Trump's accomplishments, so it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You can't really...
Are you going to go swim in the fountain?
Fountain store is amazing. But his apartment overlooks a street where the residents just set off the most illegal seeming fireworks for hours straight. You can just stand on his balcony and watching this like large ordnance fly towards you. It's very exciting. So...
All right, Jesse, with my anti-American fireworks rant out of the way, what are we talking about today?
Well, today's episode is sort of a one-parter that turned into a two-parter. I wanted to talk about the DSA revolution in New York City. We just had primaries and several pretty far-left folks were elected. There's a group gathering outside my apartment to expropriate it and take me to a gulag they've set up in Prospect Park. So I'm going to have to deal with that once we stop recording.
First they come for the podcasters.
But we're actually going to do that next week for our next free episode.
All right. DSA next week.
DSA next week. This week, we're going to talk about Graham Platner. Graham, everyone's made poor decisions in their 20s. Platner, the senatorial...
I have a brunch tattoo.
A brunch tattoo.
It literally is the word brunch on my arm.
Oh.
I mean, honestly, would you rather have a Nazi tattoo or a brunch tattoo?
Yeah, Graham Platner. I want to talk about Graham Platner this week because I've been wanting to talk about him for a while because there's a lot there. And then in between this week's free episode and next week's free episode, we have a primo coming up. Also, the second part of a two-parter. That one's on Marsha P. Johnson who threw the... It's a little confusing, but I bet our listeners are smart enough to figure this out.
Should we just share our calendar with the entire group so people can figure out what's happening?
Right now, you're listening to part 1 of the 2-part DSA series. In between part 1 and 2 of the DSA series is part 2 of the Who Threw the First Brick at Stonewall series.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah.
And we're also launching a 10-parter on the Mexican Revolution, but that's a separate thing you'll have to pay separate for.
That would be a great name for a taco truck.
The Mexican Revolution?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. Few corrections first. I made multiple errors last free episode, which is not what I usually do. I don't like it. We talked a little bit about a leaflet that was written in Urdu, and I don't remember the exact quote, but I basically said that I thought the Urdu script was like the Arabic script, quite pretty. Mm-hmm. Technically, I was correct, but that's because they basically use the same alphabet. There's like apparently some minor differences, but it's like basically the same thing.
Dumb motherfucker.
I'm really dumb.
What was your SAT score? What's your IQ? Do you need to get on disability? That is so dumb.
I know. It's unbelievable. We also talked about a London borough called Haringey because there was an election there. And I called it Haringey Green because I read or heard something about like turning Haringey green, like the Green Party. But in my defense, that sounds like the kind of place a British place name. I'm from Haringey Green.
I can see a hat like British people wear. Do British people wear hats? Or they wear like the little caps. A cap and it's red and it says "Make Haringey Green Again." Okay.
I don't really. Thank you for backing me up. One other thing is when we discuss cousin marriage in some immigrant
community, we are both in favor.
Both in favor of. We both said for hot cousins.
Yes, only hot cousins.
Some immigrant communities in England have cousin marriage. I mentioned genetic counselors in like Jewish Orthodox communities. And we actually had someone write in who said that they're a genetic counselor and they specialize in prenatal and reproductive care. Katie, do you want to just read a little bit about this?
That sounds like a eugenic job. I work closely with both of these communities in New York. Cousin marriage, as you know, is common in the Arab world for first cousins to marry and have children together. The background risk for birth defects in the general population is about 2 to 4% when first cousins mate. I like that. When cousins mate, yeah. that risk increases to 6 to 8%. This is not true only for Arab couples, but for any couples who are first cousins. In the Arab world, cousin marriage is not taboo as it is in other parts of the world, which we know. When I counsel Arab couples on this issue, the response is typically that they are comfortable with the risks. Some children have special needs and some do not, and their family and community helps to take care of their children no matter what. Very interesting. And then this person writes, Orthodox Jews, cousin marriage is considered taboo. Okay. The gene pool, even in Orthodox communities, is large enough so that cousins are not marrying by chance. Where genetic counseling comes in is regarding inheritance of autosomal recessive genetic diseases. When two carriers of the same recessive condition mate, each child has a 25% chance to be affected with the disease.
So this is stuff like Tay-Sachs disease that affects people from certain ethnic groups. And if you're marrying within your ethnic group...
Redheadism.
Yeah, horrible plagues like being redheaded or
a lefty.
Being a lefty. I am a lefty.
Having an outie. You're a lefty?
I'm a lefty, but I have an innie. Why do you sound surprised? I'm a lefty. I'm creative. Lefties are creative. The point is, this is. I conflated two different issues. This is not the same as cousin marriage. This has to do with certain recessive traits in communities that intermarry. If you intermarry in a group that is more likely to have the recessive version of this gene, you have to be careful. So sorry about that.
Okay, wait. So what part did you get wrong? That the Orthodox Jews actually don't do cousin marriage. It's taboo.
I don't think I said they did cousin marriage. I think I treated cousin marriage as like the same sort of genetic risk as the risks faced in the Jewish Orthodox community, but they're different sorts of risks for slightly different reasons.
I think you said that Orthodox Jews do cousin marriage.
I hope I didn't say that because I
made a joke after that about how Jews and Muslims have so much in common. Your cousin marriage and your penises.
Penises in terms of size or circumcision?
Circumcision. I don't know anything about size. I assume Arabs have bigger.
I would not have. Okay, I hope I didn't say that because I would not. I don't know. Like I would have assumed they don't do cousin marriage because it's pretty uncommon in general. Either way, now we've cleared it up. We've done a great job.
All right, the Muslims do cousin marriage. The Arabs do not.
The Arabs do not?
I'm sorry. The Muslims do. I'm sorry. Muslims have nothing to do with it. The Arabs do cousin marriage. The Jews
some
do
of
not.
them. Some of them do not.
Only 55%. And
let's move on. I'm only going to dig myself in a further hole here. Katie, what jumps into your head just off the top of it? That big, beautiful brain of yours when I say the words Graham Platner. My
head is actually quite small. I have what some people would probably consider like a form of microencephaly.
Were your parents cousins?
My parents were not cousins, but I think I was just like really squeezed through the birth canal. I was almost born in the parking lot of Pedro's Porch, just like really, just I think
what porch?
It's a Mexican restaurant in Asheville. I think I was just in there for a while, so I can wear a toddler size hat.
Pedro's Porch.
Pedro's.
Does it still exist?
No. The parking lot does. There's a little plaque.
Someone wrote a song and lyrics by the Baja Marimba Band in 1964.
About the Mexican restaurant on Biltmore Avenue in Asheville?
I don't know, but we can figure this out offline.
Okay, wait. Who'd you ask me about?
Graham Platner.
Again, a ginger. I think of Graham Platner as like a real hero of the working class. You know, a mere oyster farmer who went to what prep schools?
We'll get to that. But so you like a working class
hero
oyster farmer who went to prep schools and a hero.
Yes, it's a very common combo. You go to Eton. I can't think of any American prep schools. What's a good American prep school? Sidwell Friends. And, then you go get your
master's in oysters.
Yeah. Probably you get your master's in like philosophy or something. And then you're walking by a Carhartt store one day and you're like, you see the mannequins in the window and you're like, that's what I want. And then you get a pair of boots, you go get a pair of Blundstones or something like that. You get some like thick denims and then you put it on and then all of a sudden you're working class. That's how it works.
Okay.
That's what I did.
Graham Platner is perhaps among the most famous up and coming lefty American politicians at the moment. He's running for Senate in Maine.
It's a psyop.
This is a very big race, this Maine senatorial race, because while it presently seems pretty likely the Dems will retake the House, although hold that thought for next week, we'll talk more about that. If they also controlled the Senate, that would be a very big deal. Control of the Senate brings with it just really important powers for the last 2 years of Trump's presidency. Control over confirmations, what makes it to the Senate floor for votes, obviously. You'd also, if the House were to launch impeachment proceedings, the Senate then holds the trial. No one.
Oh, we'll get him.
There'll be some pressure once if they control the House.
And then he'll be impeached. And then what'll happen? What'll happen, Jesse? What'll happen?
He'll be impeached, and then they'll fail to convict because they don't have the supermajority. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Nothing will happen.
I'm not. Okay. Just let me describe the mechanisms of our democratic
I think
system.
a third impeachment will do it. I think this time.
The point is, even if the Democrats retake the House, the difference between Trump and GOP control of the Senate versus Democratic control of the Senate is pretty night and day. Would you agree with me there?
I would agree with you there if Trump were a normal human being and not the chosen one who seems to get everything he wants. And is the reason there's been so much focus on this Maine race because Susan Collins is considered particularly weak? Is this the only state that has a chance of flip-flopping parties? Why Maine?
Yeah, so last I it depends who you ask, but last I checked, Democrats' probability the forecasters think they have like something in the low to mid 40% chance of taking the Senate. They have a real shot at the moment. It's extremely unlikely to happen if they don't take Maine. Graham Platner is running against Susan Collins, as you mentioned. She's represented the state since 1997. She's one of the last remain. You like her?
I do. I mean, compared to most Republicans, yes, she's slightly more independent. She doesn't vote with Trump 100% of the time. She's been a Trump critic. She's moderate.
Funny you should say that because, yeah, she's one of the last remaining moderate-ish Republicans on paper because you can always count on her to just support whatever Trump is doing and then express disappointment that it happened. So I have stats on this. I pulled them. The center-left Center for American Progress writes that Collins has voted with Trump 95% of the time.
Exactly. Like I said, not 100% of the time.
Not 100%. Collins 7 votes, ... that differed from the White House were largely the more controversial nominees. They list Hegseth, Patel, and Emil Bove, who is a very controversial figure for more nerdy reasons. They were nonetheless confirmed along with some larger budget bills that passed anyway. So when she has gone against Trump, it's been in situations where the GOP didn't need her vote. She also helped to confirm folks like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard.
Both great Americans.
So, I guess she's moderate in that she furrows her brow at Trump. I don't think she really gets in the way of Trump's agenda. She is a vulnerable candidate, is the point.
And Platner just won the Democratic primary, so he is our man in Maine, taking a woman's job.
Yes. His most serious opponent in the primary was the state's governor, Janet Mills. She withdrew from the campaign at the end of April because there was a polling gap, and she didn't have that moolah. She didn't have the money she needed.
That's so crazy to me that this, totally unknown, inexperienced fake oyster farmer was able to raise more money and interest than the actual sitting governor of the state.
Well,
it tells you something.
Yeah, and part of what it tells you is it has to do with where the Democratic Party is. Mills sort of represented the dusty old Democratic establishment, and at the moment, if you just ask Americans what they think about the Democratic Party, it polls somewhere between Lyme disease and chlamydia. So it is a bad time to be an establishment Dem.
What would you rather have?
Oh, definitely chlamydia. Isn't chlamydia just easily curable?
I mean, so is Lyme if you catch it on time. I had it. Remember I sent you that picture of my butt with the big bullseye?
Well, you sent me a lot of pictures of your butt. Narrow it down.
No, it was just the one.
Chlamydia. I think chlamydia, you can just... I have not had chlamydia. I promise, Kate, I haven't.
I know. Nobody thinks you've had chlamydia.
I've not had sex. How could I have chlamydia?
Anyway.
Platner, because the Democratic Party is so unpopular and has been flailing about so wildly since 2024, it's energized this new lefty cohort of people who want to remake the party in their own image. A lot of them are affiliated with the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA. And that is the world Platner is from. Okay,
well, tell us more about Platner. How did he has no experience. He's never run for office. How does he become the Democratic nominee?
Oysters, basically. Can we start with his oyster farm?
Let's please do.
So yeah, he has an oyster farm, and that represents the fact that one of the reasons we're supposed to like him is that he's supposedly not some rich product of the establishment. We're told he represents this sort of rugged, beard-having, military-serving, beer-swilling, gravel-voiced type of guy, usually a white dude who's been fleeing the Democratic Party in droves. So he's the sort of candidate that can bring those sorts of people back, we're told. We're told that in part by...
All Democrats are so dumb, all they need is a good beard.
All they need is a good beard.
Uh-huh.
One of the people telling us this about Graham Platner is Graham Platner himself. Quote, "I'm a working class guy that lives a working class life." He told a local Maine television station, as reported by the New York Times, "There's an authenticity there that most other politicians just can't provide because it's inauthentic for them." The authenticity is inauthentic. Okay. He regularly says versions of the line, "I've never been close to money and power."
And this is not true, correct?
It's not true. No, not really. The Times investigation into his past and his finances says he has a, quote, backstory that defies easy categorization. There's some truth to that. So he did 5 combat tours. He was a harbor master. He presently runs an oyster farm. He washed dishes in an inn after 8th grade. And his mom, who separated from his dad when he was young, did not have much money. But on his dad's side, there just isn't much of a trace of working class. Now, this depends partly how you define it. In the Times article, they say Platner describes working class as anyone who works and makes money off of wages and pays taxes.
So LeBron James would be working class. He's not an owner of the... Who does he play for? Lakers?
Lakers, yeah. Yeah, the Times diplomatically describes that definition as expansive.
So you and I are not working class because we own the means of production, but Tim Cook, who does not own the means of production, is working class.
I mean, yeah, when it's a fuzzy expression. Sometimes I usually think of someone who has a certain baseline level of economic precarity.
I think of it as someone who wears Carhartts.
Or either you have economic precarity or you wear Carhartts, but not both. If it's both, they cancel each other out. But Platner has never experienced economic precarity. So Katie, read this about...
But you said that he washed dishes in an inn after 8th grade.
Read this about Warren Platner, his grandfather. This is from the Times.
He was a, quote, celebrated architect who designed the dining room of Windows on the World, the storied restaurant atop the World Trade Center, and offices for the Ford Foundation building. Before Mr. Platner was born, his grandfather also designed an expansive family estate in Connecticut that he said was inspired by a chateau in the Lorry Valley. Is it Lorry?
No idea.
A chateau in...
I'm working class.
A working class valley of France, working class wine country of France. Mr. Platner has said he visited his paternal grandparents at their home twice a year on Thanksgiving and Easter. Warren Platner is best known for a namesake line of furniture, including mid-century modern easy chairs that today are priced starting at $15,000. Quote, "I love them," President Trump, who kept Platner chairs in his office at Trump Tower, told the New York Times in 2010. "I've had them recovered recently. I buy the velvet fabric directly from the company and it costs a fortune, but don't they look great?" God, Trump should have just been a fucking designer.
How surreal must it be for the guy who wrote a story about a chair popular with rich people in 2010 and is like, "Oh, I'll hit up Donald Trump." It just must be weird for him to now read back on that and to see how it connects. Platner's father, that was his grandfather. His father is a successful local attorney. Platner borrowed $200,000 from him to buy his home. And his father, quote, also paid for his and his wife's travel, lodging, and fertility treatings in Norway this year.
Norway?
End quote.
They not have fertility in Maine?
Well, Norway...
He wanted Norwegian babies? This sounds sus.
Very eugenic. The oyster farm's biggest customer is his mom, who owns a restaurant, and most of Platner's...
So he's a Nepo baby.
Most of Platner's own income comes from the almost $60,000 a year he receives from the military every year, tax-free, a result of his 100% disability rating. So he has PTSD and hearing loss as a result of his service.
You know, Graham Platner's pedigree, this sort of reminds me of George Bush, like actually raised in Connecticut, but putting on the airs of a cowboy. He's doing the same, putting on the airs of a Maine oyster farmer.
Well, it's tricky. I think there's like an interesting economic tie in here between Platner and the sorts of young people who came out to vote for DSA candidates the other day.
It's not a little tie-in. They're the same.
Well, yeah. But I mean that...
They're downwardly mobile.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So like there's a difference between your present income and savings and whether or not if things go south, you have a safety net. So when I first got to DC, I think my first job was like $34,000 a year. I was in my 20s. I lived in a group home and my rent was like $600 a month or something. It's not like I had like tremendous earning potential because I was in the DC nonprofit and journalism world. And there were probably waiters in DC who made more than me. But don't you think it would sort of miss the point if I lumped myself in with waiters by saying, look, we both make $34,000 a year?
I mean, it depends on who the waiters are. You know, there are plenty of waiters who also have parents who are lawyers and doctors.
A waiter, I'm saying you could call many of the waiters would be working class in a way I was not at the time.
Assuming that the waiters in question were not also people who went to private schools and had parents who made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Plenty of waiters are actually in that same position.
Yes. I was making $34,000 a year, but I didn't really have to like worry about slipping through any crack because frankly, if something bad happened, I came from a wealthy suburb and like my parents could help me out if need be. And they had helped me out during unpaid internships.
Yeah. There's a difference between being poor and being broke.
Yeah.
You know, you and I come from different socioeconomic classes. Like my parents were educated, but my parents were never wealthy. And still, like I grew up thinking that my family was rich. Literally, I thought that we were wealthy because I was surrounded. I'm not from a wealthy suburb. I'm from a pretty podunk place. And so the people around us were genuinely poor. So relative to them, my family was very affluent. But honestly, like then I got into journalism and I was like, oh, no, compared to my peers now, my family was pretty working class, like educated, but working class.
I think it's interesting with Platner because like he himself does not make a lot of money or live like the lifestyle of a wealthy person, but he and his allies have obviously played up this whole working class thing in a way I'm guessing most Americans would not agree with because they'd say you're not really working class if you can borrow $200,000 to buy a house or fly to Norway on your dad's dime for fertility treatments.
And class in general is such a fuzzy concept in a lot of ways. Like compare something like that, like being a plumber with being a journalist. Most plumbers are going to make more than most journalists.
Yeah.
But I consider, and maybe working class isn't the right terminology here. It's like blue collar versus white collar.
Well, but a plumber, okay, take a 22-year-old plumber who's like been through a full training they're
making a lot of money.
Make more money definitely than like a lot of 22-year-old NGO nonprofit workers in New York.
But their parents probably don't have second homes on Cape Cod.
Yeah, and they hang out with different people in terms of like education and interest. Well, this made me think about you because you're not. Dad was a professor. You're not like working class, but you went through like phases where you had like actual real person jobs, working in bars and coffee shops and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
In your 20s.
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't like start having office jobs until I was like in my late 20s, early 30s. And I went through many years of being broke. But while I was broke, I was never poor, right? Like I always could have called my parents and said, I'm in a desperate situation. Please help me.
But this is why I don't think we should entirely write Platner off as a privileged rich kid because if you work in bars or restaurants for years or in other settings with people who largely don't come from money, you do like come to understand different types of people you wouldn't meet otherwise. And like that whole authenticity thing sounds like bullshit, but he hasn't come up in like a gilded world for the most part.
But he went to private schools.
He did. But his adulthood has largely been in settings where you do not have like mostly higher educated wealthy people.
I mean, his grandfather has a Wikipedia page, like assuming like even if his mom's family didn't have a lot of money, assuming that he had access to his father's fortune, the fact that he like put on a uniform and did the military for a while or worked in oysters, to me, like you can't opt in to being working class if you have a trust fund.
No, but okay, take him and Gavin Newsom and drop them both into send them to campaign at a genuinely working class bar with like mostly people who are not college educated. I do think that one of them, Newsom, is much more likely to be like, hello, my fellow noble working class friend. Do you care to share a Budweiser with me? Whereas I think Platner probably can speak the language. No, I don't mean that in a condescending sense. Just all subcultures and class levels have their own vernaculars, and he's probably can speak it.
I'm sure of that. I'm sure that he is more fluent in the vernacular of people who have bar fights than Gavin Newsom is. He's not slick looking. My point is that I think it's a put on. I think that he's a poser.
Interesting. Okay. I'm not sure. Well,
come on. He has an oyster farmer and his customer is his mom. he strikes me as someone who is playing the role of working class, who is not and look, I know a lot of people like this. I dress like this. Like, I got asked the other day if I was a farmer, and I was like, look at my fingernails. I'm obviously not a farmer. Like, I understand that because I like the aesthetic that he has.
You're a content farmer. Is that what they meant?
I was so flattered by this that somebody would look at me and see someone who actually works a hand job for
a hand job. Someone who works a hand job.
That came out wrong. I do a fingertip job. I do a typing job. That's someone who doesn't work a computer job for a living. But no, it's straight up. It's the pants.
One thing we should say, because Jessica Ladies Baby, as always, did like really good in-depth research on this, and there's all sorts of, as with any high-profile campaign, there's like a lot of bullshit floating around online, and I saw some people claiming that there was something truly fishy, actually no pun intended, about the oyster farm, that he had just registered it or something.
Like it's a brand new oyster farm that he set up so that he could run for office.
Yes. It appears. The Wakiag Neck Oyster Company website says he took operations of the business back in 2019. A local Maine outlet looked into it, and they think that he was involved since at least back then. And there's like he also even talked about it on his old Reddit account, which is going to come up again, where he went by P Hustle, which I do think is instantly disqualifying to call yourself P Hustle.
Are you sure it wasn't Fussle?
No, it's P-Hustle.
Okay. Actually, all right, thinking about this working class thing again, I'm thinking of a friend of mine who I wrote about this guy in my book. If you saw him on the street, you'd be like, that guy is working class. He worked as an electrician. He did odd jobs. Mostly he drank. That's why he's in my book. Crawl space stuff. And he was poor. Like,
he did crawl space stuff?
Yeah, like cleaning
What does that mean?
Like cleaning out crawl spaces. That's a very working class job. It's a disgusting job.
No, I know, but you said crawl space stuff, which sounds weird and almost sexual.
So if you saw this man, like, and it wasn't like he was also poor. He was also not just broke, but poor, didn't have a safety net. He was the child, and I found this out later after I knew him. It was like shocked the shit out of me. He was the son of a linguistics professor and a nun. But he had fallen so far from that strata that he was genuinely working class. But this was mostly to do with like alcoholism and like other life shit.
That it gets complicated.
And that's the part, like that's the part to me that Graham Platner, that distinguishes someone like that from Graham Platner, is that Graham Platner, like you just said, $200,000 from his dad for the down payment on his house, flying to Norway on your dad's dime for fertility treatments.
But it's different from a version of Graham Platner he could have gone into Democratic consulting or worked in finance.
So he's a fail son.
Yeah, maybe he's a fail son. Well, and you had mentioned the downwardly mobile thing, and this will come up next week too, but a lot of this is also people who do come from prestigious backgrounds, but who think they're not now getting a fair shake because especially, and this is more so in places like New York where the cost of living is insane than Maine, but it's all part of the same.
People cannot live anywhere but New York.
They can't. They're not allowed to.
No.
Also, this should go without saying, but he loves bringing journalists to the oyster farm like whenever he can. And
it's very scenic.
Makes a lot more sense than bringing him to one of the his dad has been involved in Democratic fundraising for a while. Not going to bring him to one of those. Read the start of this Anna Marie Cox profile of him in the New Republic with your folksiest, maniest voice.
What does a Maine accent sound like, Mainer?
It's like, I can't do it. It's like a little, there's a good SNL where Fred Armisen and Bill Hader play a gay couple from Maine. Mm-hmm. So you should just check that out and it'll show you what the accent sounds like.
At 8 a.m., Totten Bay is glassy. The air cool but salty enough to make your nose wrinkle. A man in rubber boots, canvas pants, and a black t-shirt worn to gray, carrying a large cooler on his shoulder, passes me on the beach. Yeah, here for Graham, he says, his main accent looping the first two words together. Yep,
yeah, for Graham.
Yeah, that was like good man, he says. Good man, he says.
Good man.
Good man, he says, continuing on his way.
It's just like, it's sort of too on the nose.
I mean,
it just happened to be someone was passing by. It's like, oh yeah, he's a very honest man.
The cooler was probably filled with Pellegrino.
Do you think he just hired a local to be there when Anna Marie Cox showed up?
Hold this on your shoulder.
Okay, we should probably move on to the tattoo, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the weirder subplots here. Graham Platner has a tattoo that appears to be a totem cop. Right.
Do you still have it if it's underneath another tattoo?
Very philosophical question. But yeah, this is a symbol associated with the Nazis. And the story he told when another Marine who got a matching tattoo said the same thing is that him and his Marine buddies were drunkenly in Split, Croatia. And there was this badass looking tattoo. And the Nazis, to their credit,
Very badass.
They had some badass symbols. If you didn't know the underlying all that stuff that happened, you'd be like, that's cool. And he has subsequently said he had the tattoo for many years, but only recently during this campaign has he realized its significance, but he appears to be completely full of shit on that.
Okay, explain this. Why full of shit? But besides the fact that it's obvious.
Right. Well, what you think he should have known it was obvious it was an SS tattoo?
I think, no, not at the moment of getting it.
Yeah.
I think if you're like drunk with your buddies, I mean, honestly, who hasn't been like wasted with your buddies in Croatia and gotten a
getting tattoos?
Nazi tattoo? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, totally. That's how I got the brunch tattoo. That doesn't surprise me at all. What is harder to believe is that at no point in the last like 17 years, did he figure out that his tattoo was a Totenkopf.
Yeah, and I should say, I'd be more likely to believe that if he was the sort of person, at the risk of foreshadowing or spoiling, if he was the sort of person who didn't constantly take his shirt off, I'd be more likely to buy that story. That is not the case. Speaking of which, Matthew Castle of Jewish Insider, full disclosure, I know him and he's a very good guy and a good journalist. He wrote a big piece on this in October of 2025 that made some news. Read this excerpt, please, Katie.
But according to a person who socialized with Platner when he was living in Washington, D.C. more than a decade ago, he lived in D.C.? What was he doing there? Do they have oyster farms there?
Bartending.
Platner had specifically acknowledged that the tattoo was a Totenkopf, the death's head symbol adopted by the infamous Nazi SS unit that guarded concentration camps in World War II. Quote, he said, "Oh, this is my Totenkopf," the former acquaintance told Jewish Insider recently, speaking on the condition of anonymity to address a sensitive issue. He said it in a cutesy little way.
That's just like my Totenkopf. Yeah. I like it too, thanks.
The exchange occurred in 2012 at Tune Inn, a popular dive bar on Capitol Hill, where Platner later worked as a bartender and was a frequent patron while he attended the George Washington University on the GI Bill, according to the former acquaintance. He would take so he was bartending while he was in college?
Platner later worked as a bartender, it says, yeah.
Okay. No, later worked as a bartender and was a frequent patron. Okay.
I will say, I mean, he got GI Bill, but George Washington University is also a very bougie university.
Right. He would, according to the former acquaintance, he would often take his shirt off drinking with friends late at night at the bar. And he's like Bert Kreischer. And on at least one occasion had stated he knew what the tattoo represented, the former acquaintance recalled.
You can probably relate to him with that last part of getting drunk and taking your shirt off.
Showing your tats off, yeah.
That same day when that story came out, Platner announced he was going to have the tattoo removed. A few days later, Andrew Kaczynski of CNN, last seen ruining Kamala Harris's otherwise perfect campaign by revealing answers she chose to give to questions she chose to answer. Kaczynski also reported talking to an anonymous former acquaintance. I think it's the same one who confirmed the tattoo. Kaczynski also said he himself, Kaczynski, had seen a text from this acquaintance at the time texting someone else about Graham Platner's tattoo. You get what I'm saying there, right?
Yes. So there is contemporaneous evidence.
Yes. And in journalism, like contemporaneous, if someone says this happened and they can show you here in my fucking phone, 2015 text message talking about the tattoo, that's like usually considered pretty good evidence, right?
Yes. This isn't just someone saying, this happened 15 years ago. Believe me, there's some evidence here.
Yeah, I can't tell you that the evidence goes to school in Canada, so I can't show you. Making matters worse, Kaczynski and his team, they found Platner with that P-Hustle guy on Reddit, a lot of posting. And there had been posts where...
he is P-Hustle.
He is P-Hustle, yes. Yeah. Not that P-Hustle guy. That P-Hustle guy is him. There have been a lot of posts where Platner spoke in great depth about members of the military getting Nazi-looking imagery tattooed on their body. Like, he knew this was a thing he clearly knew about. These posts were from like 6 years ago.
Does being a Redditor disqualify you for being in the U.S. Senate? It maybe should.
Well, I mean, calling yourself P-Hustle does. Being a Redditor, probably. Nazi tattoo, I guess your mileage may vary. Yeah.
All right, do we know who this anonymous source is?
Yeah, yes. Well, we probably, but let's do housekeeping first before we get to that.
We are a podcast. This is Blocked and Reported. You can reach out to us with story tips, with corrections about cousin marriage in any ethnic group. with feedback at blockedandreportedpodcast@gmail.com. We also, I know this is going to be news to people, we have a premium subscription program. A lot of podcasts are going full paywall at this point. We're not doing it. We still have...
Is that true that a lot are?
Ethan is.
Well, he should. He's like a working father.
Unlike us.
I'm not a working father.
Does Moose not count?
You're mother to Moose.
And for a mere $7 a month, or way less if you join for a year. I think it's like, how much?
It's basically free. I think it's free if you do it for a year.
I think it's $70 for a year. So you get like what is the discount there? 20%? I don't know. You get a significant discount if you join for a year, and you get at least 3.5 extra episodes every month. It's also the best and really the only way to support the show, and it is what keeps the show going. So please join us. We have some great content coming up for our primos. As Jesse mentioned, the next Primo show is going to be the continuation of our Marsha P. Johnson series. And then
two-part series.
Two-part series. And then we have some really great stuff coming up later in the month that I'm very excited about. You also get access to our live chats. You get access to our comment section, our chat, which is available through the Substack app. And what else, Jesse?
Did you give our email address?
I did. It's the first thing every time.
Did you talk about how being a paid subscriber is the only way to support us?
I did. Yes.
I think that's it. Oh, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts.
All right.
Okay. So you're asking me about the anonymous source.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think this one is likely Lindsay Fifield. She was later quoted in a New York Times article we're about to get to. Jewish Insider said that source knew him more than 10 years ago. Times would later report this Lindsay Fifield person dated Platner between 2013 and 2015, so that would roughly fit.
Are we sure it's her?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is like all the sort of facts line up. So this Lindsay Fifield person was the source.
Okay, and she's a conservative activist, right? Yeah,
she's a longtime GOP type, and the optics are awkward. The lefty outlet Zeteo said
because it was cross-cultural dating.
Yes, because it was cross-cultural dating, and because as the New York Post...
Is he canceled for that, for dating a conservative operative?
The New York Post back during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing said that Inez Stepman and Lindsay Fifield are two millennial women who co-founded the group Ladies for Kavanaugh to show their support for the nominee when they felt that view was being left out of the public discourse. So they... she's a partisan and she supported Kavanaugh, but it would have required a lot of like engineering of prior text threads or like hacking his social media history to undercut this evidence. Based on what you've heard,
dude, that happened. You know that happened to Joanne Reed.
It did happen to Joanne Reed, who's always loved gay marriage and gay people. Always. So based on what you've heard so far, it seems unlikely. Even if you set aside like multiple journalists saying they talked to someone who said this, those Reddit posts where he's specifically talking about like what is and isn't a Nazi tattoo, he seemed very familiar with Nazi iconography. Also, a leftist woman has more recently come forward and said Platner knew the tattoo was a Nazi symbol. She has a very left-coded social media profile name, 420 Mercy Main 69.
I thought that was your name.
Used to be. Do you know what a Mercy Main is?
No.
Mercy is the healing character in the Overwatch universe. Mercy Main means that's a character you usually play. Okay. It's a multiplayer shooter.
And so the reason that it's left coded is it says 69 and Republicans don't 69.
They don't see, they're not allowed to because of the Bible. And 420 is weed, which they can't smoke, and they also don't play Overwatch. So this person, 420 Mercy Main 69, said she met and started dating Platner when she moved to Maine for a summer job in 2021. So just read part of the statement she posted, please.
We went on dates in public out in the open. I went to his house. When we finally got intimate, I was lying my head on his chest, and like the well-informed leftist I am, but the swooning young woman I was, I asked him point blank, OMG, crazy question, but is that a Tome Comp tattoo on your chest? Haha, no worries if not, lol. Is this how women speak?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. I remember this plain as day. He sighed and put a hand to his forehead and pushed his hair back and said, yeah. He explained that he didn't know what it was when he was younger, but his leader of whatever military variety was big into World War II history and suggested he and his team all get it. My obvious response was, wow, oh my God, that's like OMG, so crazy, lol, why didn't you get it fucking removed? Okay, so she's saying that is she saying that he was conned into getting this, or that his by his leader or that his leader didn't tell him?
He didn't. No, well, keep reading.
He provided what at the time was a pretty convincing explanation that when he finally returned from war and then he was a private contractor, canceled, and had settled into leftist ideology, he kept it as a reminder that the United States, and by extension himself, were the bad guys, a blood brand of sorts that would serve as a constant reminder of his growth and change, but a mark he would always carry. I'm sure that this worked on this woman.
Horny young woman.
He should have tried with this explanation instead of just lying about it. But why should we believe this 420 Mercy Main 69?
People dug up these other tweets of hers from 2021 and 2022. Just read them, please.
At that point, her name appears to be Dipshit. Is that right?
Dipshit something. I don't think we can see the whole thing. Yeah.
I get my tarot read once a month from a sweet older woman, and she's been confirming my feelings about Graham for the past 2 months. And this month's reading shows very positive things, not only for that, but also for my life and the changes I'm about to go through in general. And then another one, I was seeing a guy that owned a farm in Maine, and I got to eat oysters right out of the ocean. You are correct. It blows every other oyster quite literally out of the water. And then another one, honestly, can't wait to get married to my oyster man and mooch off my husband specifically so I can have hand and face tattoos. Okay, this is believable.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the probability of someone coming forward saying I dated Graham Platner, unless this had been a very long-running plot to seed her social media profile with references to an oyster farmer and Graham, you sort of have to be a conspiracy theorist to believe this person doesn't actually know Platner. So put this all together.
Yeah.
Tell me if this makes sense to you. He got the tattoo, probably not knowing exactly what it was at the time.
That's what I assumed, but if she says his leader was into World War II history, that suggests that at least the leader knew. Did his boss in the military con these guys into getting Nazi tattoos?
Right. To me, I'm not going to make any assumptions about drunk 20-something Marines in Split, Croatia. I would not.
Yeah.
This is going to surprise everyone. I don't like Nazis or Nazi tattoos, but I could actually see something like that happening. But yes, you're right. That's a little bit ambiguous. But what I think is not ambiguous is that there's a lot of evidence to suggest he was simply lying when he said he only knew about this when it was brought up during the campaign.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, if he just fucking said look, this was a horrible mistake I made years ago and I should have covered it up. I'm embarrassed I didn't. Here's why, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Some people for understandable reasons wouldn't have accepted that. I don't think it's inherently disqualifying that he got this tattoo.
I mean, it's not a tramp stamp.
It's not a tramp stamp. If he'd gotten a Totem Cop tramp stamp...
If he'd gotten a juicy tramp stamp.
The responses from his defenders have been pretty brain-melting. And here, I don't want to risk getting into you and I. We have our own feelings. We have feelings, and we don't want to get stuck in our feelings. But we've had... The sorts of people who are caping for Platner online overlap heavily with people we've had negative run-ins with. And they're overwhelmingly the sorts of people who love to try to get people's lives ruined or to get them fired for even misdemeanor infractions related to social justice.
Yeah.
But this has really shown that, when it comes to people on their team, it's all fine, including Nazi tattoos they're lying about. So
of course,
read this from friend of the pod, Emma Vigilant. And this was the day the Jewish Insider story came out.
How many people get tattoos that they thought looked cool but didn't understand the meaning of it? I thought that brunch meant something else. And how many vets took mercenary work for a period because the U.S. doesn't support them? How many young men have shit posted online? Do we want an authentic working class party or not? The only working class people that Emma knows would be the people she employs to clean her fucking house.
Look, it's none of us are working class, and the Democratic Party does have problems with working class voters. To me, the problem is less her saying, do we want an authentic working class party or not, than this. If an authentic working class person said they thought there were two sexes, or they were skeptical of trans women in women's sports, Emma would view them as a monster. She would never say that this Big Ten should include people with those incredibly mainstream views, but a Nazi tattoo that a guy is clearly lying about, then you need to understand the full context, because those are authentic. This is an authentic working class guy whose dad lent him $200,000 to buy a house. It's just, it's so full of shit. And the way this signifier, authentic working class, it's just, she's deploying it in a really opportunistic way because the vast majority of working class people don't have Nazi tattoos. The vast majority of working class people do hold views on things like sex and gender or defunding the police that Emma Vigilant and people like her have made clear should get you hounded from polite left of center society. So I just think it's bullshit all the way down.
She's supporting this guy because he's
a socialist.
She's
a socialist.
Yes, that's the only thing that it's about.
Yes, he lied about the Nazi tattoo, but he did it socialistly, so it's okay.
Right.
So that was the post of the day of the Jewish Insider article, but these folks really lost their minds after some more recent coverage in the Times and the Wall Street Journal you might have seen.
Yeah, this is something to do with him being a douchebag to women.
Yeah, so that Mercy Main person mentioned, among the other stuff she talked about, that she found out Graham had been engaged while they were dating.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I mean, this puts us in the category of like, he just seems like a pretty bad dude. It's not the same as lying about a Nazi tattoo. So the time.
Wait, what do you think's worse? Cheating on your fiance or getting a Nazi tattoo?
It's a question for the philosophers.
Cheating on your fiance has a very specific victim.
Yes.
Your fiance and the woman that you're dating. Anyway.
So his like treating women shittily was not some long ago thing. So the Times and the Wall Street Journal did publish reporting at the end of May and early June saying that like even right as his campaign was kicking off last year, there were vetting concerns because his current wife said that like he has been sexting with multiple other women recently. So this is an ongoing thing for him.
And how did that come out? Like, who did she willingly...
During the vetting process.
Okay, so she said that to the people who orchestrated this campaign. How did the Times find out about this?
Yeah, here I can read it directly. Mr. Platner's wife, Amy Gertner, told a senior campaign aide that he had been exchanging sexual messages with multiple other women.
Okay, and someone from the campaign leaked to the Times.
Yeah, it got to them one way or another. Yeah. So on June 4th, the Times took a closer look at his history with women. Quote, Mr. Platner could be charming, charismatic, they recalled in interviews, but also demeaning to women. And in at least one case, even physically threatening. He drank heavily and was regularly unfaithful.
Sounds like he'll fit in DC.
Yeah, and the story's tricky because some of it is like he's admitted to being sort of a PTS-ridden alcoholic fuck-up earlier in life. And some of it is just like, you know, him being a really bad boyfriend, but some of it got weird and worse than that. This comes from Lindsay Fifield, the aforementioned conservative type. Read this.
So this is from the Times?
Yeah.
During one argument, she recalled, he twisted her arm behind her back, shoved her into a bedroom, and held the door closed from the other side so she couldn't get out, telling her to remain there until she was calm. Eventually, Miss Fifield said she fell asleep and left the next morning. Quote, it hurt, she said, but she added, it didn't cause an injury, it didn't break my arm. Mr. Platner, quote, strongly disputes any claims of physical intimidation or altercations, his campaign said. The Times could not independently corroborate Miss Fifield's account of the altercations. Miss Fifield also recalled that Mr. Platner's displays of weaponry and discussions of violence sometimes left her uneasy. She said he kept an AR-15 lying around his apartment on Capitol Hill and would sharpen an axe, a relic from his time working on the Appalachian Trail before he enlisted in the Marines while watching television. Why would you have an axe living in D.C.?
It was a relic of his time working on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. He had what she described as a warrior ethos and would fantasize about killing people he deemed a threat, she said. He said he told her that rape was about power. Okay, that's like the Susan Brownmiller shit.
I was going to say, yeah.
Second wave feminist.
He's a feminist.
It was something that stuck with her through the years, Miss Fifield said. He said this a lot. If anybody ever broke in here, I would rape them, she recalled, saying he added that it would not be in a sexual way, not in a gay way. Okay, that's good.
Not in a gay way.
Fellas, is rape gay?
Yeah. So this story, there was not a smoking gun, and the Times said they could not. She was talking about an incident where he briefly physically restrained her, which is not good, but it didn't like break anything, and the Times couldn't confirm that. So this story just made him out to be like a pretty bad guy on multiple fronts. But do you think I'm wrong that like, if this amount of evidence had been marshaled against like, I don't know, a center-left establishment Democrat type, I think the left would be like, that's, yeah. I think they would find that disqualifying, right?
Depends on the year, and it depends on, because nobody, I think particularly left and Republicans, like partisans are not consistent about this.
Yeah.
So like Al Franken got run out of the Senate for crimes far less serious than this. Like, he wasn't accused of physically restraining anybody.
Yeah.
But that was the moment of Me Too, when all of a sudden, like something like this, if this had happened during Me Too, he's out.
Yeah, he's probably out. I mean, I'm just getting at, like, look, everyone's...
Well, not if he was a Republican. Like, if he was a Democrat.
I just think there's a lot of inconsistency here. I mean, I just talked about that in the context of Emma Vigilant, but this is the Platner candidacy. This is a part of a broader proxy war between the left DSA flank of the party and the more moderate members.
Yes.
A lot of people pointed out, Fifield was conservative and therefore she's got to have an agenda here. There was also this idea that this is some sort of intentional smear campaign on the part of the Times. So Freddie DeBoer he wrote a day after the second Times article came out, "Of course, this is a coordinated rat fucking of Graham Platner. Subheadline, let's be adults here, please." Katie, will you read this?
"For the record, I'm not a Maine voter, and I'm not especially a Platner fan. He's not my vision for the future of the Democratic Party, and I haven't donated money to him or anything. But this process has played out time and again, where the center-right faction of the Democratic Party has weaponized liberal media, like, say, the New York Times, the Atlantic, and New York, to do their dirty work, and inevitably against a more populist left-wing candidate who represents a threat to the Clinton-Obama Democratic Party machine. And it sucks."
He also wrote that the reason the establishment wants Platner gone is not the tattoo or the text, but that the oyster farmer represents a movement within the party that's a genuine threat to the billionaires who control our political system, I guess, including one of the billionaires bought his dad's chairs his grandpa's chairs for $15,000. What do you think of Freddie's theory here?
I do not find it plausible. Like, if there were any chance that he was going to lose the primary to, like, if, like, the governor of Maine had been a viable candidate, or there had been any viable candidates and this came out right before the primary, maybe more plausible. But I don't think that the Dems need, even if he's a DSA radical, the Dems need this seat. They need him to win.
Yeah. I mean, it's the moderates and the DSA insurgents alike will be in the same boat if he loses. So That's a very good point. I mean, I don't think
that centrist Dems would rather Republicans keep the Senate than to have this, like, fake oyster farmer.
No,
because they see him as a threat to the status quo.
Which,
by the way, he won't be a threat to the status quo.
I don't think meaningfully. I also this idea that the center-right faction of the Democratic Party, like, smears anyone who goes up against the Clinton-Obama Democratic Party machine. I mean, one of the most microscopically covered political figures in recent history is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
They covered her like crazy.
They covered up the email thing.
Right, they covered up the email thing. Every hint of a potential scandal, which doesn't really jibe with the theory that, like, what he calls the center-right faction controls what the media writes, which is also, I think, a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Freddie is assuming that, like, there's some sort of coordination, there's a conspiracy between, like, the centrist at the New York Times and the Democratic Party, which I do not believe. I believe that journalists are ambitious and care more about breaking stories and their own names than anything else.
If the Times was in the pocket of the establishment, they would not have. They, like, covered Tara Reade's rape accusations, which are now widely considered to have been debunked. The Times gave them a lot of airtime.
Accusations that were not debunked by, like, that story was first broke by Ryan Grimm.
Yeah, it's just...
What do you think Ryan Grimm's motivations were? To rat fuck Joe Biden?
When Freddie's good, he's good. I just find this very conspiratorial. Speaking of which, I want to go back to Emma Vigilant for a sec before we wrap this up. Just listen to this clip, Katie, and let's embed this.
All of these attacks from what, like, people are understanding to be the establishment, I think could really backfire on them. And a reminder that it's not just, I think, ideologically, it's Zionists that are terrified of Platner, but the entire infrastructure of the Democratic consultant class is also in opposition to a campaign like this because of how he runs. Because if this is the standard, then the parasitic middlemen who are the Democratic consultant class that take these big commissions on media buys and digital ads that have had very little little success specifically in unseating Susan Collins, but even broadly across the country, they would be rendered moot. And that's what we need to do, because they are parasitic and taking away all of the energy from the Democratic grassroots. But they are terrified about that. So you have consultants going on television slamming Platner over and over again. They're trying it with Abdul al-Sayed, but he's such a Boy Scout that you can't find anything. But this manner of
he's
campaign,
unconventional.
yeah, I mean, and whoa, did he actually do his residency? Like, the manner of campaigning is threatening to the Democratic Party infrastructure, and then overall, of course, the politics of Platner is threatening to the Zionists that are running a coordinated smear campaign against him. Make no mistake about it.
Does she have any evidence to support this?
Which part?
That there's a Zionist smear campaign against Graham Platner?
No, look, I've been pretty open on the show that I don't think criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic,
No.
like even harsh criticism.
Yeah.
I think people weaponize those allegations, but like Occam's razor here, and you could say this to both Emma and Freddie. Platner has like been a lightning rod for attention. He's running for Senate, and he's an insurgent candidate, despite having never served in any office. He's on track to potentially be a senator, a U.S. senator. That's what journalists do, is they poke and prod the background of someone who is likely to be in a position of power. So I think if you spread the idea that this sort of bog standard poking and prodding and reporting is best explained by a coordinated Zionist smear campaign, and I'm directly quoting the Majority Report's own Facebook page, if you keep pressing that sort of message over and over and over, you probably shouldn't be surprised if you find some actual anti-Semites in your orbit. I don't think Emma is necessarily an anti-Semite, but a coordinated Zionist smear campaign is really verging into dangerous territory. And again, this is someone in Emma Vigilant who like really polices what other people say. I just think she should be careful about this. But look,
do you think this is the same Zionist who killed Charlie Kirk?
Probably the same Zionist, if you had to guess.
Is it like one Zionist?
Well, there's a group.
Just like
there's like
one really powerful.
There's
group.
an annual conference, and then there's quarterly
Okay.
smaller subcommittee meetings in terms of who we should kill and who we should promote for office or deny office. So,
but I hope you at least have a Democratic vote about that.
So, Katie, one reason I want to keep in most of that is because, like, I do think the question of Maine voters not, like, she's blithely stated Maine voters don't care.
Okay, so that headline, Emma Vigeland dissects the coordinated Zionist smear campaign against Graham Platner and why it's backfiring with voters in Maine. Is that true?
Well, we've established the Zionist smear campaign is true. You're saying because we have the meetings,
Yes.
but the Maine voters not caring, you're asking. Is that true?
Yes.
No, I mean, she said that very confidently. Genuinely hard to say. First of all, if anyone knows what the voters of Maine think, it's definitely Emma Vigilant, or me for that
She probably
matter.
has a summer home there.
I'd say it's hard to say. Right at the start of this month, like before the second Times article came out and like the scandal really engulfed him, there was a poll showing Platner up 4 points. Nate Silver said at the time, quote, "An internal poll showing +4 is not super reassuring, given that internal polls typically exaggerate their candidate standing by 4 points or so, and that's smaller than Platner's lead in most public polls before." Since then, there just hasn't been a lot of high-quality polling. The New York Times reported a couple showing Platner +1 or +2, which would suggest like a dead heat, but the Times notes that's from lower-quality pollsters. So a race doesn't really come into focus until after the primaries, until the field is otherwise cleared, and we don't know yet.
Right.
So I think it's really unclear.
Well, I mean, but also so much of this is not actually about Platner. So much of this is actually about Trump.
Yes.
And is what voters care about neutering Donald Trump? How important is that to you? That's what this will come down to. I don't think if Platner wins, I don't think this will be the socialist revolution. I think what this will come down to is, do Maine voters want Trump to have less power? Period.
Well, if you were casting the deciding vote in Maine, like how much do you buy the lesser of two evils thing, where if you vote, you get to decide, and then the Democrats take control of the Senate?
I would vote for him. I hate to.
Yeah, me too.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I don't like this guy. I think he seems like a douchebag.
He seems like a major D-bag and a bit of a liar. But yeah, it's a two-party system. You have two options.
I probably would not have voted for him in the primary, and I probably would have sat out the primary if if there was no other viable candidates. But I would probably hold my nose and vote for him because the in this case, I'm a single issue voter, and that issue is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like you compare this guy's shitbaggery against Donald Trump's corruption. He's fake working class. He's a poser. shitty boyfriend. Donald Trump is incredibly corrupt and corrosive and has killed a lot of people, including, for instance, like 176 school girls in Iran. So, yeah, I'm voting for the shitty oyster farmer.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not about, if it was just about Platner's character, if I could vote on whether or not Platner has good character, I'd say no. But what you just said is infinitely more honest than saying the only reason people are concerned about Platner's background or the fact that he seems to be a very shitty, dishonest human being is because of a Zionist smear campaign. I mean, I guess the difference is you and I don't feel any particular like revolutionary affinity for Platner.
No.
We just want Democrats to control the Senate, whereas people like Emma Vigilant think he's one of her.
I want him to be powerless in the Senate. I don't want him to be like,
you want him to win and then the next day fall into a coma and get replaced by an actual oyster farmer.
Impeach him over the shitty tattoo. What's the cover up, by the way? Was it a swastika?
What a swastika.
The other thing is, so I believe I read, and you know more about this story than I do, Jesse, but did I read somewhere that he was sort of handpicked by Democratic consultants himself?
Yes.
Like DSA type progressives?
Yeah, so there was a video interview with, I think, the Wall Street Journal. Jeff Maurer had a funny piece highlighting this video called Stare into the Face of Your Populist Revolution. And it's just an interview with these two campaign consultant types who apparently plucked Platner out of obscurity. Let's listen to this clip that Jeff Maurer posted. So yeah, the first guy's a Wall Street Journal reporter, and then the two, these people are called Dan Moraff and Leanne Fan, and they met as staffers on Bernie's 2020 campaign.
And what did you think about that? How did you think your way through the fact that he had posted these things on social media?
I said none of this will or should stop him from becoming a U.S. Senator.
And what was your thinking there?
Agree. I think if what the voters wanted were people who were grown in vats and had never done or said anything that they might regret their entire lives, we'd have a very different country. Part of our thesis here is that people do not want their candidates grown in vats. They want people who are real human beings, and they want people who do not look and sound like the vat-grown people who've been leading this country off a cliff for the last century. And that was Graham.
I've never heard a male with vocal fry before.
What?
This is incredible.
I mean, I'm not one to, I can't talk, but it's like
If you talk like that, we wouldn't have a podcast. That's horrifying.
The problem, like, people are allowed to have annoying voices. I have an annoying voice,
true.
but it is funny because it's like, these are the guys who pick the guy who's going to go up against the billionaires.
Candidates who are raised in a vat.
It's just...
So the guy who was plucked out of obscurity by two consultants is running against the consulting class.
Yes. And he has an oyster farm, but it's not like really what he does. It's sort of a hobby. His mom's the main customer, and and so
family
on.
Values.
So, okay, that's it for our exploration of Graham Platner, but we're going to be revisiting some of these themes next week. There's a lot of directly adjacent stuff I want to discuss involving the DSA, New York City, anti-Semitism.
He is not the worst person probably headed to DC.
Maybe the second best.
Yeah.
But yeah,
horrifying.
Anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, U.S. policy toward Israel, and I think most importantly, this like socioeconomic dividing line in the Democratic Party that I think is like a real obstacle to anything resembling a coherent, unified party. We'll talk about all that next week. For now, thank you for listening. As always, Jessica the 80s Baby provided invaluable research. Katie, Marsha P. Johnson next week?
Yep, next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.